Am I the butthole for throwing my brother's prison trauma in his face to prove a point? My brother has always been an angry, head-headed thug. Since he was a small kid, he showed violent behavior, idolized gangs, and would just generally be a prick to everyone. He's the kind of guy that goes on about respecting him and tries to intimidate everyone just because he can. When he was a teenager, it escalated dramatically, and our parents tried whatever they could to fix it. He started using drugs when he was 16. By the time he was 19, he went to prison for 2 years. Prison changed him. After he got out, he was not the same guy. He flinched when you touched him, slept with the lights on, and added an extra lock to the door of his room when he stayed with my parents. He was broken. He eventually had a full-blown mental breakdown where he started talking about what happened. It was about as bad as you expected. His combative nature isolated him day one and made him a target for all kinds of abuse his entire sentence. He's been in therapy for years. He's 32 now. He went back to school, met a nice woman, and is actually turning his life around. Our relationship isn't perfect, and it will never be fully healed, but he's trying to actually be a human being. The problem has been the last couple months. You can see it on his face. The way he acts. He's slowly going back to his old ways. He acts aggressive around mom and dad. When he's out, he tries to pick fights again. The people he hangs around with are known violent felons and suspected dealers. He had a girlfriend for about a year, but she left him because he started frequently screaming, throwing things around their apartment, and threatening to hurt her. It's obvious he's on drugs again. He's slowly unraveling and throwing away years of progress. Our parents tried talking to him, offered rehab, offered for him to stay with them for some time. He flipped out at our parents, and after years of his crap, they simply walked away and blocked him for the time being. They spent years and countless dollars before and after his sentence to try and help him. They were done. I tried talking to him. His place was a mess, and he had empty alcohol bottles and pill containers scattered around his place. He got hostile very quickly when I pointed out the obvious and threatened me. I snapped and brought up what he told us about his prison time and told him it would all be waiting for him again if he doesn't fix his crap, and that this time his family won't be waiting to help clean up his mess. It shut him down super quickly, and he just curled up on the couch and weakly told me to leave. I've felt terrible since I brought it up, but he is gladly throwing away years of progress for the same crap that got him in trouble in the first place. He knows what prison is like, and he's doing everything he can to go back there. He's spitting in the face of everyone who went to bat for him, chasing the same highs that almost destroyed his life. Update. Last night my brother got high and trashed his apartment. He punched holes in the walls, destroyed furniture, and busted windows. Utterly destroyed his place. He tried kicking a neighbor's door in and throw rocks through their window when they yelled they were calling the police and threatened to kill them. Police came. He tries fighting them and got his butt beat badly. They took him to the hospital. He calmed down for enough time to call me to the hospital. It was unintelligible, but I got the gist of it. And yes, I shouldn't have gone to see him, but by the time I got there, he had lost his crap again and was in 4-point restraints. He was screaming and practically feral. I couldn't even get any words in before I decided to leave. From what I can gather from the cops there they found a ton of drugs. He assaulted a police officer, destroyed his apartment, and damaged a neighbor's front door and window, threatened to kill the neighbor, tried to escape arrest, punched a nurse, bit a tech, and to top it off, he was already in trouble for sending death threats to his ex. So yeah, he's going back to prison for a much longer time. I'm done with him. Our parents are done. Everyone is done with him. And frankly, I'm very okay with that since I finally am free of the stress he brings. He didn't learn a damn thing. Final update. It may have not been the best idea, but I decided to have one final talk with my brother the other day before I made my decision to cut him off. After his episode at the hospital, he has been locked up for the time being. No one has even attempted to bail him out. I have no idea about how charges or a trial are going. but it will take a while. As far as I can tell, there is some matter of determining a possible psych hold, but there's a lot of gray area with that, and I frankly don't have much of an idea how that works, and won't get myself more involved to find out. We only got the chance to talk for a few minutes. I didn't visit. He called me over the phone. I straight up asked him what was going on. Why did he do this? What caused his slip the last few weeks? And the thing was, I was expecting some emotional response, a plea for help, maybe even some reasoning. But that didn't happen. Instead, he asked, "Why not?" I asked what he meant by that. He just kinda smugly laughed a little. He started rambling about how his ex should watch out for him when he gets out. I quickly reminded him that these calls are monitored, and he needs to watch his mouth. He told me to go F myself, and he only called to see if I would post his bail. I was practically pleading, asking him why he was doing this. He got agitated, said he doesn't care, started screaming how he doesn't need us, and you could hear him get into a scuffle with what I'm assuming was an officer watching him before the call got cut. I was practically speechless. He doesn't care. He maybe never did. Some people in the comments and DMs were making assumptions about myself and my parents, how we handled his behavior and mental health care. Ever since he was a kid, my parents spent every spare dime and minute of their lives trying to help him. Pediatric mental health care, therapy, group activities, extracurriculars, anything to try and steer him on the right path. They put me on the back burner for years because of him. Our relationship almost got tanked because they wanted to help him so much. When he got out of prison and had his breakdown, it was practically a clean slate for him. He never apologized for what he did. He didn't have to own up to his family for what he put us through. We all just tried to help. And he took this second chance people would crawl over broken glass for and threw it in our faces. Well, good for him. He gets what he wants. To be utterly alone in prison. I'm no fool. He likes to push us far and try and reel us back in. But after this, I am truly and utterly done. Our parents are in the process of removing him completely from their lives. They are livid. He's spending a much longer time in prison, and if he ever gets out and looks for someone to help him pick up the pieces of his life, he's going to be sorely disappointed. We tried to help. He didn't want it. I'll answer some questions if anyone had any for a few days before torching the account. Next story. Am I the butthole for overreacted to learning about the true fate of my little sister's remains? My mother and father divorced when I was young. They had an oops baby together after my mom remarried, which rocked that marriage apart. That oops baby was my little sister. She died abruptly in an accident 4 years ago at only 14. You know how people say the firsts after a death are the hardest. They don't account for when there's no first to be had. When they should have been getting ready for prom, but never will, it's a completely different pain. My mom and I were talking about it. We were both drinking, and she slipped that my bit of ashes I carry that I thought were my sister's were just regular ashes. Burnt wood. She already poured out my sister's ashes without me or my brother in the plot she bought with my stepdad. She couldn't fathom my rage because to her, the sentiment and emotions are the important aspects, not that it's physically my sister. My anger is prompted by the lies and the fact those sentiments and emotions are attached to something not my little sister. And I had no idea she cast her ashes on a plot she wouldn't have cared about. I screamed at her to get out of my house, locking the door behind her and calling up my stepdad to pick her up. I threw the necklace out the window to the front lawn, then regretted it and tore it out of her hands when she picked it up. As she would say it, I made a scene and embarrassed her. I kept screaming and calling her a liar whenever she tried to explain herself or get back inside. I was threatening to call the cops on her when my stepdad finally showed up and took her away. He called me the next day and left a message saying that he wanted to talk about what happened and how he understands why I'm angry and hurt. He just wants to talk. But I need to talk to my mother too about this because she's a grieving mother. Emphasis his and my sister's death was a huge blow to the entire family, and everyone is trying to regain our bearings still, so some kindness is needed. All I can think of right now is my mom's heartbroken face as I ripped my necklace with my sister's ashes out of her hands, or the way she turned away from me crying as my stepdad ushered her into the car. I called her names, I let my pain and rage take over me. But I can't get over the lies. 4 years of thinking my necklace had my sister, of thinking she was right by my heart, and it all came undone because my mom had too much to drink. How long would she have let me think this? How long would the lie continue? Update. I gave my mother an ultimatum of either telling my brother and father, or I will. She refused to, because you reacted so horribly. And she told me not to tell because you're doing this to hurt me and you're just going to hurt them. So I told them. I sat my dad and brother down and explained that the necklaces didn't have the right ashes in them. I've never seen my dad break like that, and I've never heard my brother scream at me like that. He was angry that I knew before him and didn't immediately tell because this is crap you tell me. You needed to tell me. We tell each other everything. But he started crying and apologizing to me, admitting he's just so mad about what mom did and he can't handle it. So I guess that's clearly something else me and my brother share. We get overwhelmed initially before cooler heads prevail. My dad looked gutted, but he was clearly trying to piece himself back together. He said a lot of the same other people had said to me on my other post. We can get some of the dirt from the plot where she was scattered. The necklace has the meaning we attribute to it, and she's still with us even if her body hasn't been physically with us. I feel bad because some of it my mom said, i.e. the bit about the necklace being important even without her ashes in it, but I was able to accept that much easier from him. Maybe because he didn't lie to me for 4 years and drop a bomb on me out of nowhere because I pulled apart a lie. He held my brother and I as we cried, and he apologized for the pain. And he said it wasn't fair that I had to be the adult when my mother should have told all of us a lot sooner. Dad's going to try to talk to my stepfather to find the plot because my mom has been refusing to talk to us anymore, not answering messages or picking up the phone. Her social media has even gone dark. He's going to find out where the plot is and go to the site. I don't know if I could if it were up to me. It just feels like the final bit of proof that this effed up nightmare is real and my sister is mixed with dirt and rocks and grass of an unmaintained and unvisited plot. My mom and I always had some issues, but that's normal. This is worse than anything, and we had a rough patch when I came out that we didn't even talk. But we mended fences after. I can't see ever forgiving her, not with how she dropped this on me, blamed me for my reaction, and left me to do what she should have done. To top it off, she won't even show the decency to explain why or even talk to me. When we were discussing cremation, it was agreed we would all get a necklace with the ashes. My mind keeps going over things that just didn't add up fully, times she almost slipped or things that make complete sense now. She almost left behind her necklace on a trip and didn't freak out like I would have, because she knew where my sister was the whole time. She volunteered to be the one to separate the ashes and gave Dad the rest. I assume those ashes are the same as ours. Fake. God, this whole thing just makes me want to curl up in a hole and never see the light of day again. I've been on and off crying all week without being able to stop, or just so angry I could scream. In the middle of my damn workday, and suddenly I'm rushing to the bathroom to hide the fact I'm breaking all over again because I can't stop my thoughts. I quit smoking after my sister died, but I picked it right back up again. My dad has been calling me every day to check in on me and remind me of how much he loves me and how much my brother loves me. I think he's afraid. My brother has come over each day since the talk with his girlfriend to make sure I eat something. I don't know how to end this post. I feel lost and like I don't know anything anymore. I feel like a burden because my dad and brother are both dealing with the revelation too, but they're clearly thinking of me and checking in on me. I'm going to look into grief counseling, but the therapist I saw after my sister died isn't practicing anymore and my insurance isn't accepted by a lot of therapists. I try to remind myself that my little sister wouldn't have minded so much becoming woven into a tapestry of grass and flowers. and that I can visit her once we know where she was cast and make sure her sight is always beautiful. Thank you to everyone that helped me and shared their own perspectives and stories. I really appreciate it. Update 2. This has probably been the worst month of my life in years. Sorry to the mod for so many posts. I'm going to start with the minor stuff that's been happening or whatever because my head just feels like a brick. I got a promotion I'd been aiming for before everything. My boss did tell me I had already got it before this all happened, and it was held off on announcing so I could have time to process before I had to adjust to the new job requirements. I couldn't even feel proud. I know a month ago I would have, but I feel numb. I'm working a lot more hours now than normal, usually about 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., give or take. Paycheck looks nice, I guess. My dad keeps telling me I need to work less, so does my brother, but my job is one that engages my mind enough that I'm nearly brain dead by the time I'm home, which is nice. I started drinking more than usual. After blacking out one night, I let my dad take it all, and I haven't bought more. I don't think I've ever gotten blackout before, so it's terrifying to hear about the night, but have barely any recollection of it. About my sister, my mother finally responded to my brother, and according to him, she was a wreck. All tears, all apologies, all "you have to understand." There must be something wrong with me because I look at her and I want to hurt her. I want to break her heart. I want to make a spectacle of her disgusting behavior. I want to ruin her life. I think part of me recognizes that's why I'm not so overly cautious about details, but at the same time I can't do it. The rational part of my mind kicks in, and I realize that it wouldn't do anything but make it worse. I just feel guilty and sick after the brief moment of satisfaction. But then I think to myself, so how and why could you do that to us? For years. Her and my brother had a much better relationship than her and I ever did. She still did that to him. Like, yeah, Dad and her never got better after the divorce, and after the affair they struggled with even co-parenting for a multitude of reasons. Her and I have had our issues, but the bond between her and my brother has always been strong, or at least used to be, and she did it to him of all people. She tried telling my brother that she did it impulsively, in a fit of pique, but when he pressured her about why she was the one to volunteer to handle filling the necklaces, she said that it was because she was okay with it at first, but then when she saw the ashes, she didn't want to destroy her further. Her word, there. Destroyed. Like the relationship between her living children, like our trust in her, like the memorial we agreed upon for my sister. I don't know how to feel, if I even trust her story, but her wording makes me feel like it was planned. God, yet again, it becomes an accidental revelation, where she tried to uphold a lie but got caught, and that's how the truth came to light. I managed to talk to the funeral director. My sister's fingerprints are part of their records. I'm going to get her touch tattooed, but I found a means of getting that on a necklace so my brother and dad can have that if they don't want a tattoo. Still struggling to get in contact with the owners of the cemetery. A lot of unanswered emails and voicemails. I've also been looking for therapists and counselors in my area, or ones doing telehealth. I have an appointment upcoming, but I'm nervous. My stepfather has stepped back. He set a boundary that he won't talk to us until we agree to discuss this without blaming anyone, and anytime the conversation starts going toward asking about motive or who knew what and when, he says the conversation needs to end. He's even hung up on us before and threatened the cops on me, even implying it'd be deserved after I did the same to my mother. Edit, I tried Find a Grave and she's not there, same for my mother and stepdad. Update 3. Sorry about not linking at this point. Go to my profile. I wish I could give good news, but there's not been much and I haven't had much time besides working. I'm just going to keep on doing whatever this is so long as there's not a problem. I went to therapy. I tried a few sessions, and I'm so grateful she worked with me to get me on her books, but she wasn't helpful for me. I wasn't clicking with her and I felt unheard. I'm still on the hunt for a therapist. I feel very entitled saying that. My father is not as well as he wants to pretend. He is so focused on fixing this for us that he has to have lost sight of himself. I hate seeing him like this. My brother is angry. I have never in my life seen him so mad or heard him say such horrific things about our mother and stepfather. We are all just existing, it seems. My brother tried the plot hack idea. The cemetery is full. They're not accepting new burials. I tried as well and couldn't get even the plot numbers. I got so angry I was crying. I didn't take it out on them, as it's not the cemetery's fault. I can't manage my emotions. But it was absolutely crushing to come across yet another block. Our mother still won't really talk to me, with one choice exception event, and even my brother is touch and go in conversation with her. She's so quick to shut everything down. The exception is this: my mother offered to let me purchase the plot from her. She said I can share it with my brother, and this way we can be buried together where our sister is. She phrased it like she was giving me some sort of peace offering, or paying me a favor. All total costs together, the liner, the plot, the headstone, the permits because our state requires one for such sales, the care, will be over $9,500. Her and my stepfather are willing to forego the cost of the headstone to make it easier for my brother and I to make up for us not being there for the scattering. No mention about how Dad wasn't there either. No true sorry, just what amounts to, if you want access to your sister, pay me for the privilege. I want to say she doesn't intend it this way. I want to agree with my stepfather that this is her attempt to reconcile, so I should meet her halfway. I can't keep doing this. I want to put this behind me somehow. I want to forget about the plot. I want to forget about my mother entirely. It feels like it would be easier to completely cut her out, make peace with what I have of my sister, and never, ever think of my mother again. I feel like a horrible child thinking that way, and my stepfather's attitude doesn't help that feeling. I tried explaining I just want some of the dirt from the plot for part of a memorial, but my stepdad started threatening to sell it back to the cemetery because clearly nothing else will satisfy you. My brother and I are in agreement that it's a baseless threat, especially if they really did cast her ashes there, because our mother would never do that and then separate from the plot. We both know even if we buy it from her, she'll visit our sister still. I can't help the niggling concern that she did something else with the ashes than we think and what she's let on, like that the cemetery is unrelated and she was somehow clever enough to keep up or think up a convoluted lie when drunk. I keep looking at my bank account. My brother doesn't want to buy it off her, I don't think, but he's also still furious at the offer, so I don't want to say he doesn't. He means well, I think, but anytime I try to broach the offer, he starts in about how we're making our own memorial and that her offer is needlessly cruel, so I shouldn't entertain it. I could afford it if I shuffled some bills around and worked more. Almost for peace of mind, I want to say yes and take the offer. She gave me a deadline. I still have a bit of time, but it doesn't feel like enough. My dad has taken over trying to figure out the legalities of this situation. What he can do to force her hand to share where the plot is, or what he can do to make things better. He's fit to be tied. He's doing what he can, looking into what legal avenues we can pursue, and what can be done to force her to give the location. It seems like we don't have many options. It doesn't feel right or fair. He keeps saying what my brother has said, trying to reassure me, but I can't not think of it. I'm not sleeping much these days. I think the only thing going well in my life is my work, and I still haven't had anything to drink. I think maybe the next option we can try would be letting the cemetery know ashes were illegally spread on their grounds, but what will they do in response? I know I'm being paranoid and catastrophizing when I fear that they'll do something to clean my sister from the plot, or take it away from my mother, and I won't be able to access it. So I guess the update is everything is as F up as it has been since that stupid night with my mother. I do want to address the outpouring of support everyone here has given me. It has meant the world to me and given me a place of stability and external perspective where my current life is far too close to provide that. Thank you all. Next story. Fiancé M30 called off our wedding a week before and left me F30 in complete confusion. So, my ex-fiancé M30 has cancelled our F30 wedding a week before it taking place. We've been together for about 6 years and live together for context. What happened basically was an argument that escalated. We were heading to my program graduation. It's a smaller event of about 10 students and some professors from a community college. On that morning, as we were getting ready, I asked if he would be okay to wear one of his button-ups instead of the shirt he had on so we can get a nice photo. He was annoyed and snapped saying, "Why do I have to do things for others?" And I told him that he truly doesn't have to. I was just asking, but it's ultimately his choice. He ended up putting the button up and we arrived at the ceremony. Everything went fine and he was very happy for me. However, on the way home in the car, traffic was filling up and he was annoyed. I offered an alternative route that I know cuts some time and the exit to that route was coming up. He didn't take it and I was slightly annoyed about it because he was cranky with me about traffic. So I asked why he didn't take it. He started full-on yelling that my tone is rude and that he doesn't have to drive the way I tell him to. I replied saying that I literally just asked and I don't actually care what route he takes. He was the one having a problem with traffic. He blew up and blamed me for getting him upset. When we got home, I apologized and explained that I didn't mean to come across as mean. I also said that screaming doesn't help in any situation and that we should talk instead. He basically explained that an apology doesn't solve anything, and that he needs such things to not happen, otherwise he would continue exploding at me because that's the only time I listened to him. After a few hours we spoke again. He apologized for yelling, and I apologized for the miscommunication that happened. Despite resolving this later that night, I was crying due to the fact that he so easily yells at me when he's upset. I was so upset that even on such an important day for me, I felt like he picked fights. And to add to this, yelling is such a red flag for me, and I never do that to him or anyone for that matter. The next morning we were having breakfast, and he asked why I seemed gloomy, so I told him that everything's okay. I'm just processing what happened yesterday. He asked me to please share with him, so I told him that I felt like my special day was kind of ruined by fighting about things we could have easily resolved. He immediately just flipped and started getting angry again. He blamed me for the fights, and when I replied that I don't think it's fair to blame me, he got angrier and said that he can't do this, that I'm not a good communicator, and that he cannot get married like this. I was full-on shocked. I thought he was talking out of emotion like many times before, but this time he actually ended up sending a mass text to some guests to let them know that the wedding is called off. I was flabbergasted at the quickness and so confused. We started arguing and then had to leave for our days. Later that day when we returned, I asked if this is truly something he wants to call everything off, and he responded with a confident yes. What I thought was an action out of anger seemed to be solid for him. For the rest of the night and the next day, I tried to fix things between us. After many hours of talking and lots of crying from my end, he kept explaining that I don't communicate well and that this cancellation my fault. I tried to offer some solutions, but he was full on with the decision to cancel and break up. I asked if we could give it another day or two to ensure this is what he wants before we cancel the venue. He declined and asked to cancel the venue and vendors immediately. So we did. The next day, I went on errands and then met with my friend. It was truly such a hard day and I was heartbroken, still digesting this is happening. When I came home, he asked to talk and started crying that he regrets everything he said in the last days. That he didn't mean it. He was angry and didn't think straight. He said he will start therapy and wanted to do couples counseling now too after I offered it many times. Anyway, he apologized profusely and kept asking if we can mend everything or whether he F up. I was almost sure this regret would come, and honestly, maybe it was mean, but I said, "Yeah, you F up big time. You made a rash decision that hurt our relationship big time. There's no going back from here." He pretty much begged for another chance, but everything is cancelled and my trust is shattered. The wedding's supposed to be in 2 days. His aunt was supposed to be on the way to our house to help us pack decorations, and now there's no way we can schedule everything again, and frankly, I don't want to at this point. This is not the first he cancels plans or breaks up with me during a disagreement. Everyone is telling us that this is fixable, that clearly we love each other, so if we want, this situation doesn't have to be the end of the relationship. But I don't understand how. So much time, effort, and money has gone into this wedding that's now done. And plus, more importantly, I can't trust him anymore. I don't know what to do at this point. We were supposed to go on honeymoon right after, so now I'm thinking on going by myself. He asked if we can go together and spend that time to fix things, but I'm just questioning everything. I think I prefer going myself to do some soul searching. Should I call this quits and move on with my life, or take his word and start couples counseling? I love him with my entire heart, and we had many loving experiences between us over the years. We don't have any issues aside from such incidents, but I don't know whether it's actually possible to come back from this one. Thoughts? Advice? Update. Update. Thanks to everyone for the comments and support. Since all this happened, he apologized profusely and offered to return the venue and still go and get married on the same day. He also offered couples counseling starting now and right after we get married if I still want to. Additionally, he offered to go on the trip together to fix things. I declined to everything since the damage has been done, and I decided to go on the honeymoon myself while he packs all his items. He's going to start his own therapy journey while we're broken up. I don't know what's next, but this hurts so much because we still love each other. He's going to work on his mental health to address the impulsive actions when he's upset. He also realized it wasn't actually a communication issue, but rather how he felt attacked due to his own confidence. I appreciate his honesty, but can't see how it's possible to forgive what happened. Torn between trying couples counseling since he seems genuine to completely separating. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel Jane's Stories.